Hello, everyone. I'm Cheryl Musial, and welcome to My Care Advisors. In this series, Mind Your Mental Health, this episode centers around reactions to caregiving. We're joined again by medical social worker Chuck Bongiovanni. Welcome back, Chuck. It's wonderful to speak with you again today, especially about this important topic.
Thanks, Cheryl. It's great to be here.
Well, Chuck, I've heard that caregiving can trigger a host of difficult emotions.
Yes.
Can you please share some normal emotions individuals may feel when they enter the role of caregiver?
Yeah. First one is probably the one we see the most, which is denial about the situation and its effect on the person who's maybe diagnosed with dementia or Alzheimer's. That thought in the back of their head, I know mom is going to get better. It's just a short period of time. It's going to get better. It's going to get better. And then someone maybe with Alzheimer's or dementia that they're being a caregiver for, anger at the person, and frustration that he or she can't do the things they used to be able to do. He knows how to get dressed. He's just being stubborn, and those kind of self-talk, which is very, very common. And these aren't bad things. These are normal emotions that people are going to feel. Anxiety, about the future and facing the next day. What happens when mom needs more care than I can provide? What happens when mom needs more care than I can afford? Or I don't have the time to be here. And there's sometimes there's guilt. I have my family to take care of too, and this is unfair. Or mom's taking a lot of the time against my family, and that pressure of that sandwich generation, as they call it, can be very hard to deal with. Sometimes caregivers are going to feel depression, may break their spirit a little bit and affects their ability to cope. I just don't care anymore what happens. We hear that a lot, and we know that they still care. It's just frustration. And then that could lead to exhaustion, makes it pretty impossible for them to get the daily tasks done that need to get done. Maybe, time with the family suffers from that. Once you're at the exhaustion, it doesn't make sense, but, sleeplessness causes, can occur too, due to the stress of having, never ending concerns and things that, they're wondering about, in the middle of the night, they're wondering, is mom wandering outside of her house? Or, what if she falls in the middle of the night and hurts herself? And that can lead to, irritability, that can lead to moodiness and trigger negative responses. I wish everyone could just leave me alone, And again, these are natural and normal feelings to have when you're a caregiver, and even lack of concentration, which makes it difficult to perform normal things, or I'm so busy I forgot my appointment, or I'm so busy I forgot to take care of myself. And then sometimes when it gets really bad, health problems can take the toll on the caregiver because they're so worried about caring for someone else, and they may not remember the last time that they felt good. But again, I want to stress, Cheryl, that these are normal feelings for someone who's caring for a loved one. And they're not bad people for feeling them. They're actually better for feeling them, because then they're coming to terms with exactly what's really going on in their life, or their mother's or father's life.
Oh, yeah, Chuck. Well, that is very reassuring. I can tell you from personal situations, those all make sense from an emotional standpoint. And you mentioned a little bit about just the whole stress, the stressors of this. Can you dive a little bit deeper and explain what is actually caregiver stress?
Yeah. Well, caring for a loved one, the caregiver themselves can really be in danger of developing post-traumatic stress disorder due to the psychological and physical stress of caregiving, also known as caregiver stress syndrome. Where that comes from is the problem is people don't always define themselves as a caregiver, because in society, most people feel that a caregiver is someone who actually physically helps someone, like get out of bed or transfer to a commode or something. But what people don't realize that a caregiver is anyone who helps a loved one perform any task that they can't complete on their own. So most people, I want to say as high as 90% of people, I'm just making that number up, but 90% of people, I think, if you ask them if they're their mom's caregiver, they'd say no, because they don't see themselves as someone who is physically there with mom every single moment of the day, like maybe, a paid caregiver is. But in reality, they are a caregiver just like anyone else.
That makes total sense. And when thinking that forward, what are a few tips and some of those tips that caregivers should really think through about managing caregiver stress?
Yeah, that's a great question. I mean, even from the very beginning, They need to know what community resources are out there available for not only them, but for mom or dad too. And then once they know what they are, they need to get out and get help and find support, and maybe even use some relaxation technique, visualization, thinking about a peaceful time and being calm, and meditation, maybe, dedicating 15 minutes a day to just let go and just be about them. I do that every morning. I have my cup of coffee. No one bothers me for the first 15 minutes of the day, breathing exercises, slowing their breathing down and focusing on taking deep breaths when they're stressed, and maybe progressive muscle relaxation techniques also, which is like flexing each muscle group, while you're kind of relaxing. Get moving, physical activity that helps with stress in any form. It can improve overall well-being too. Even 10 minutes a day can help, taking a walk or doing an activity you love, such as gardening or dancing. Just find the time to get away. Again, even if it's for 10 minutes, and finding time for yourself. And that might even include, if you're really caring for mom, that might even include, respite care. What respite care is: a short-term time out, taking them to a friend's for an afternoon, or just have your time separate away, because you'll be a better caregiver, once you feel good, and you're also a better caregiver if you're an educated caregiver, knowing if they have Alzheimer's or dementia, knowing what that disease process is. And overall, just taking care of yourself. You have to go see the doctor too. You need to eat well, exercise, get plenty of rest, making sure that you're healthy so you can be there for your mom or dad or be a better caregiver. And then finally, I want to just really say, people who really forget sometimes is, making the legal and financial plans that are needed to take care of mom or dad in the future, putting those plans together, so you're not stressed, at some point in time when mom can't live alone anymore, and you don't know, first of all, where any of the legal documents are. You don't know where the long-term care insurance policy is. You don't know where these things are. You need to get that done now before mom or dad get to a point where they can't assist you in getting that information. All of those things is a great way to deal with more of that caregiver stress that you may be feeling.
Yeah, Chuck, this is really, really great information. I love the whole, what you've said, the whole mind, body, spirit, doing things to really being proactive and taking care of oneself are really some great takeaways. So thank you for sharing that.
Yeah, it's very important.
Yeah, you mentioned, some respite services and, other local resources. Can you suggest any other resources that you think might be helpful to help manage this whole caregiver stress?
Yeah, I'll start with one that's kind of like off the cuff, and YouTube. YouTube has great videos on meditation and relaxation. And even if it's just sitting on your couch with some nice music in the background and closing your eyes for a little bit, that's really important. Again, support groups locally. I personally wouldn't know everyone who's listening to this what their local support groups are, but I would recommend they reach out to their local Care Patrol advisor to find some of those local support groups and local resources that can help mom or dad and themselves, of course.
Oh, wonderful, wonderful. Well, Chuck, thank you for joining us today and really kind of starting to think through the whole reactions to caregiving. It's been a pleasure.
Well, thank you, Cheryl. I appreciate it.
Listeners, to view resources, show notes, and access more My Care Advisors episodes, visit mycareadvisors.com. You can also subscribe and listen to our podcast on your favorite app. I leave you with this quote from David Allen. You can do anything, but not everything. Choose to be inspired to live the best life every day. Thank you for listening. We are grateful to be your guide.